Utah is changing fast. More people are moving here than ever before. If we take a snapshot for the last 5 years and compare it to any other period of growth in the state's history, it pales in comparison. And the growth here in Utah is going to continue. It still is going strong. And for some people, that's pretty uncomfortable. In fact, for a lot of locals, they don't want to see their beautiful home state grow anymore. And I understand that. I feel complete and total empathy for those that feel that way. But with all this growth, we are going to see more commercial and residential development, as well as other problems that of course come when you add more people. Now, the Salt Lake Valley is almost full as is, but there's still a lot of room along the west bench of the Salt Lake Valley where we're going to see future growth. And now, as we talk about hosting the Winter Olympics yet again in the year 2034, it only means that we're going to see more growth in the coming decades to come. In fact, in 2002, when we hosted the Winter Olympics here in Utah, it was kind of what I like to call Utah's coming out party. That's exactly when so many people discovered Utah for the very first time, while Utah was in the national and the world spotlight, and that is coming again in 2034. And with that, we have so many things to talk about, and that's exactly what I'm breaking down in this video today, so stick around because some of these changes just might shock you. If you feel like Utah has grown faster than ever, you are exactly right. In fact, if we look from 2010 until today, Utah is the fastest growing state in the nation by percentage. And that growth really started taking off in 2002 when we hosted the Winter Games here. So that begs the question, how big are we actually going to get here in Utah? And ultimately, these are the key numbers to know. Utah's population is expected to surpass 4 million people by the year 2032. And while we sit at 3.4 million people today, that's a pretty big jump. That means over the next 7 years, we're going to see an influx of 600,000 people. So where is this growth happening right now, and where is this growth going to happen over the course of the next decade? Right now, Salt Lake County is still growing, especially along the West Bench in cities like Harriman, South Jordan, which includes Daybreak, West Jordan, and other cities that come right up against the Ochre Mountains to the west side of the Salt Lake Valley. But the number one place that's been growing over recent years in the state of Utah is Utah County. Utah County is the Provo metropolitan area, and this is a much larger county than Salt Lake County. And I predict that over the next 10 years, the population of Utah County will finally exceed the population in Salt Lake County. And many of the fastest growing areas in Utah County have been along the north end in Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs, Lehigh, and American Fork. These cities, along with Highland and Alpine for the more exclusive properties, but these areas along the northern edge of Utah County are really close to Salt Lake City. They still have really great access to the airport and all of the things that the city really provides. So this is the very reason why this area in the state has been the number one growing area. And there's still a lot of room for growth. And so we're going to see that growth continue over the course of the next decade. We're also seeing a lot of growth on the south end of Utah County as well. And if we talk about the growth that's happening up north of Salt Lake City in both Davis County as well as Weber County, this growth is really taking off along the western side of the Ogden metropolitan area. And this is one of those areas to really watch for. It's going to continue to grow at this rate. And I think it could even be growing faster in the coming few years because it's a more affordable place to both buy an existing home or build a new home. And I can't talk about growth and not talk about and mention St. George. St. George sits in the bottom of the state in the southwest corner right there in Washington County. And with surrounding cities like Washington and Ivins and many others, this is a really hotbed for growth. And this is a place where we're seeing the median home price climb and climb and climb. And now it exceeds that in Salt Lake County. But where's the growth coming in the coming decade? 10 years from now, where are we going to be talking about all of this growth? And I want to talk about two areas specifically, and these two areas are still fairly close to Salt Lake City, and one is to the west and one is to the east. Now to the west, we have Tooele County, and I've done a video recently highlighting all of the things that are coming up in Tooele County, and this is honestly one of those hidden gems. In fact, it's not truly hidden. It's just a half an hour to 45 minutes away from Salt Lake City, but so many people have overlooked it for so long, and it's really becoming a more attractive place to live, especially as you get further back into Tooele and away from the Great Salt Lake, because those areas are becoming the most desirable areas in Tooele County. And so the bottom line is Tooele County is one of those up and coming areas that's going to see a lot of growth in the coming decade. But the really fascinating area for growth for me is along the Wasatch Back. Now, when I talk about the Wasatch Back, I'm talking about the eastern side of the Wasatch Mountains. Salt Lake City, the Ogden metropolitan area, as well as the Provo metropolitan area, they sit on the western side of the Wasatch Mountains. Therefore, we call it the Wasatch Front. And on the other side, we call that area the Wasatch Back. And the most well-known area along the Wasatch Back sits just about 30 to 40 minutes away from Salt Lake City, and that's Park City. But Park City's growth is not just contained to Park City. There are so many surrounding areas in the mountains just beyond Park City and to the south of Park City in Heber, and these areas are really starting to explode. In fact, I recently created a video highlighting some massive upcoming projects that are going to forever change life along the Wasatch Back. We're going to see 25 to 30,000 new homes over the next decade being built in between Heber and Park City. These areas are going to explode as these subdivisions, as well as these communities, are stretching well beyond the land that we've typically considered for development, and it's going to offer an environment where you're really feeling like you're up in the mountains, and it's going to be absolutely massive. It's going to be a ton of homes, and I understand as well that a lot of locals that live in these smaller towns are not going to like that change, but it is up and coming. So in the next decade, watch out for the Wasatch Back. That lifestyle and that outdoor adventure that you're going to experience up in the mountains is really a cool lifestyle, and it's going to forever change life on the Wasatch Back. So what's driving the growth here in Utah? In my opinion, it breaks down to three things. Number one is Utah's incredibly strong economy. Utah is one of the best run states in the nation, and there's data that backs that up. And it's one of the best places for opportunity and for jobs and for unemployment. It's one of the very best places in the entire country. And this alone is driving growth to the state. Many companies are choosing to move here because of the educated workforce, and many people are choosing to move here because of the lifestyle and all of the things that Utah offers. And number two is the higher birth rate. Birth rates in Utah are higher than any other state in the nation. Utahns are really well known for larger families, and this drives the growth here alone, let alone the incoming people that are coming from out of state. And that leads me to number three, which very well may be you, and that is people moving here from out of state. These are transplants that are coming from California, Texas, Arizona, New Jersey, Michigan, Florida, Georgia. They're coming from all over the country and the world, and they're looking for places here in Utah because of all the things that Utah provides. So if you're from California, or maybe you're from Idaho or Texas or Arizona, regardless of where you're from, look at the pros and cons of what Utah has to offer compared to the area from which you're coming. And what I've personally experienced in talking to people just like you every single day as they reach out to me, people are finding so many reasons to fall in love with the state of Utah, mostly because of what Utah is, but also because of what Utah provides. And this leads to what I would consider the big question. Can Utah continue to handle this kind of growth? I would love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know. And before you do, I know a lot of people are going to drop comments about water, that we don't have enough water, and I have a whole bunch of data surrounding what is going to happen as the population increases and where are we going to get all that water from. So that's one thing that people have a concern about. Another thing that people have a concern about is just the congestion, as well as the air quality in the winter when those inversions happen. But ultimately, drop a comment, let me know your thoughts. Can Utah actually handle this continuing growth? All right, next up, let's talk about the housing market. So whether you're moving here for the first time or perhaps you already live here, the housing market is something you're going to take deep interest in knowing where the growth is going to take place. But beyond that, it's understanding the differences between new construction as well as purchasing existing homes and how those things play into where might be the best place for you to land, depending on your lifestyle and your situation. And look, it is my opinion that if Utah does not tackle this growth responsibly, we're going to have a continuing affordable housing crisis. We've got to build more homes. We simply have not been able to build as many homes as people need, and that is driving the cost up. And so if you've been considering buying a home, you already know that prices are a little crazy, but those prices are not coming down. What we really need to focus on is increasing the output of supply. In other words, building more homes so that we can correct that imbalance between the supply and demand equation to get closer to what I would like to call equilibrium. And the bottom line is some people believe that the market's going to crash, that we're in a bubble. Well, the data says otherwise. Nothing that's happening in the marketplace now with respect to foreclosures and supply and demand and how many people are choosing to sell their home, what are they selling their home for, and how are home prices continuing to rise? Well, it's because of this simple economic equation of supply and demand, and we just don't have enough homes. And Utah's home values have more than doubled in the last decade. And popular locations like Salt Lake City are likely going to see those median home prices hit $730,000 by the year 2030. So that's just in 5 short years. And beyond that, beyond the really popular areas, I think the affordable areas are likely going to see the largest percentage increase in terms of appreciation, whether that be in Tooele County or down south in the bottom of Utah County or up north on the western side of the Ogden metropolitan area. These areas are going to see really great appreciation as a percentage of their value. And so, is there any good news? This might sound like bad news to many people, but what's the good news? Well, the good news is more housing is coming. With this growth and with this opportunity, but also with this problem of housing affordability, local leaders are really stressing housing affordability, and hopefully some meaningful changes are happening to allow for increased production of housing. Now, this is going to show up in so many different forms. It's going to be single-family homes as well as a lot of townhomes and a lot of condos and apartments. The bottom line is the more people we can get into affordable housing, the more pressure is going to be relieved from the single family homes that so many people want and desire, and keep those prices from skyrocketing further. And if you want to know exactly what these developments are that are coming up, there are some massive projects that are underway, both in Utah City, down in Utah County, as well as the Point development in Draper. But there are some really great new projects that are coming up, both in Tooele County, as well as the west side of Salt Lake County, that I'm going to be covering in videos in the coming days and weeks. These are some really big developments that are happening, and I'm going to make sure that you're well informed so that you don't miss out on any of the information. And combined with these additional developments, we still have so many developments that are underway or just in the beginning phases, not only in Utah County, but up here in Salt Lake County as well, in neighborhoods like Daybreak, where I live, and so many others. There are so many projects that are already underway that will continue to grow over the coming decade. And look, the state of Utah is investing a lot of money into affordable housing, but the question is it enough? And so I would love your opinion here. Drop a comment. Let me know. Do you feel like Utah should be building more mid-rise and high-rise apartments and townhomes and condos? Or do you think we need to stick with more single-family homes? I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments. Drop a comment. Okay, next up, let's talk about infrastructure, because with all of this growth, if we don't have the proper infrastructure to handle it, what's the point? Traffic would be at a point that would just be absolutely terrible. You couldn't get anywhere. And honestly, we have really good traffic here in Utah compared to other places. Despite the fact that many locals that have lived here their whole lives really complain about the traffic, it's really nothing compared to what you would experience in most every other city. In fact, most of the people that move here, whether they're coming from California or Atlanta or any other major city, they kind of laugh at the fact that this is what we would call traffic, because it's honestly really good. But it's not going to remain good if we don't keep up with infrastructure. So this begs the question, with all of these people moving here, how are we going to possibly move all of these people around? And the answer is Utah's infrastructure is going to go through some major changes. So what exactly is coming? I-15 expansion projects to handle increased traffic are part of the equation. The TRAX light rail system is going to be expanded as well, with new routes connecting more areas, especially here in Salt Lake County. And perhaps with the upcoming 2034 Olympics, we might even see expansion of that light rail system into other counties. I'm curious if that's going to happen, but time will tell. Additionally, the new Salt Lake City International Airport is completing construction in the next year or so, and the Salt Lake City International Airport is a beautiful addition to the city. And fun fact, the airport was completely and totally paid for before they built it through money that they had actually saved for the construction of the new airport. In other words, taxpayers did not pay one single dollar to pay for that airport. And I don't know of any other city in any other state in the country that does things that way. And with this new shiny airport, expansion with more international flights is already happening. And this brings up more questions for me. In other words, are we going to see expansion of the light rail system into Davis, Weber, or Utah counties? Who knows? Or maybe we could even see a high-speed train that gets from Salt Lake City to Denver. Who knows? But I do know this, we're going to see more walkable and more bikeable communities, not only in the suburbs, but in the city of Salt Lake City itself as well. And with respect to traffic concerns, can Utah's freeway systems handle an additional 1 million residents? With projects currently underway expanding and converting highways to freeways, freeways, both in Bangerter Highway on the western side of the Salt Lake Valley, as well as the Mountain View Corridor on the very far west of the Salt Lake Valley that runs all the way from I-80 in Salt Lake City to the north, down south through South Jordan, through Harriman, and crossing over the mountain into Saratoga Springs with a connector to I-15 in Lehigh, and another stretch that will lead out to Eagle Mountain. These freeways are already under construction, but we're going to likely see many, many more projects coming up over the course of the next decade. And one of the biggest events coming in Utah's near future is, of course, the 2034 Winter Olympics. And as I mentioned before, the 2002 Winter Olympics were Utah's coming out party, and it really spurred a lot of growth in the coming decades. Will that happen again after 2034? Will the games here in Salt Lake City be a good thing, or is it a disaster waiting to happen? So what do the Olympics mean for Utah? Billions of dollars are coming in from sponsors, tourism, and infrastructure spending. Also, huge upgrades to ski resorts with new resorts being built, as well as venues and public transportation. But it's also going to be a massive boost for local businesses and Utah's global reputation. And with those things being the pros, what are the cons of the Olympics coming here? The 2034 Olympics could very likely drastically change the housing market here, driving up prices for rent, as well as purchasing a home here. It's probably going to make it more difficult. So if you're looking to make the move, I would suggest doing so well ahead of the Winter Olympics. And as I mentioned before, can we handle the traffic and the congestion during those 2 weeks during the Olympics? We're going to have to likely increase many of our infrastructure projects to help meet the need of so many people coming in to visit from around the world. And lastly, although it might be a very good short-term boom for our economy, what are the long-lasting effects? And if you look back at the Olympics over recent decades, most Olympic host cities have seen disastrous results after the games. Salt Lake City is the one shining example of what it looks like to do so successfully and to see really good benefits and to operate as a host city and actually see it be successful, not only during the games, but after the games. I'm super excited for the Winter Olympics coming yet again, but my question for you is, are you excited for the Olympics? Do you think it's going to be more of a net positive or a net negative? Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Yay or nay to the Winter Olympics here in Utah? Utah has always been known as a conservative state. Now, I'm not here to talk about politics. I don't really care which side of the aisle you're on, but it really does affect how you live in the state of Utah. We want to make sure that we not only preserve what we are, but we also want to move forward as times do change. We're going to see that play out over the next decade, and it just might happen faster than you think. And Utah, although it is a conservative state, sees more and more moderate as well as independent voters than we've seen in the past. And I believe that Utah is one of the most independent voting states. In other words, if a presidential candidate that happened to be an independent candidate that actually had a shot at winning an election, you'd probably and very likely see that Utah would be its strongest supporter. And as we see this growth here in Utah, the tech industry, the biohealth industry, the advanced manufacturing, all of the things that are bringing people from all over the country and the world is also going to bring people with different perspectives and different views. And social issues like housing, education, and environmental policies are affecting this shift as well. So the question is Utah going to be the same, politically speaking, in 10 years as it is today? Who knows? I don't have a prediction. I don't know what this looks like. I only know how I can best serve people that are making the move here. And from my experience in my chair, I see people finding really good reasons to make the move here. Right now, Utah's economy is on fire, and it's been on fire for a very long time, but will it stay that way? So what is growing here in Utah? Let's start with the tech industry. Of course, the tech industry has been booming here in Utah. In fact, Utah is now known as Silicon Slopes. But beyond the tech industry here in Utah, we see massive growth in the outdoor recreation businesses as well as tourism. The national parks, the ski resorts, the beautiful Wasatch Mountains, and the Uinta Mountains are drawing in big money from around the country and around the world. A lot of people and businesses thrive off of what Utah has to offer, and that is the great outdoors. Additionally, healthcare and biotech are growing at a very rapid rate. More medical hubs and hospitals are expanding the reach of this throughout the state of Utah, and it's absolutely one of the big drivers as to who's choosing to move here. And with lower taxes and affordable business costs, it's also drawing in more and more companies. This isn't just big companies. This is middle size as well as small businesses as well. These are really driving the force behind Utah's strong economy. And with more and more remote workers, we're seeing this drive up the cost of housing as well because, for example, anyone that works in California who has the ability to work remotely, they can do so while living here in Utah with a lower cost of living here compared to California. And it's driving up the cost of housing because we just aren't building fast enough to keep up with that demand. And this begs the question, is Utah becoming the next Austin? Who knows? But I can say this, and I will predict that Utah could be one of the top 10 economies in the entire nation by the year 2035. When I study the economic data, it is absolutely on that trajectory as Utah's economy both thrives and grows at an increasingly fast pace. And so Utah is changing at a very fast pace. And the big question is, are we ready for it? From housing prices to transportation to the 2034 Winter Olympics and all of the future growth that we're going to see in the next decade, there's just so much coming our way. And ultimately, as a Utah native and a Utah expert, as well as a licensed real estate broker, my team and I are here to guide you through that process if you yourself are looking to make the move here. So my team and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. I would love it if you would connect with me down in the description. You can find our contact information. You can also text us the word home, or you can click on that link in the pinned comment on this and every video to book a video call with me. Regardless of how you choose to reach out, I really look forward to connecting with you. And if this is the type of content that really helps you and serves you, I would be honored if you would hit that subscribe button because it helps me get in front of more people just like you, and it helps me grow this YouTube channel so that we can really be best prepared to serve you properly as you make the move here. And if you're looking to learn more about life in Utah, check out this playlist next. And until the next video, thanks.